Hello and welcome to another episode of HOSC CRM Dev. Today we're going to create a simple plugin which is very simple. All it does is run on the trigger of an update of an account and it will write to a field, the description on the account, and that's it. I'm going to go through a little bit of plugin theory, explain a few things. We're going to go through the process of building the plugin, deploying the plugin, and then testing the plugin. And once you've got those sort of fundamentals sorted, then we can build upon that and do more complex things later on. Now I'm going to assume that you have been following my other videos and you've got your CRM 2013 trial up, or an on-premise equivalent, that you've installed the Microsoft Developer Toolkit for CRM 2013, and that you've created your solution, and then now really you're all ready to go and start building a plugin. I will be going through some of the information I've got for this sort of tutorial is from the CRM SDK 2013. It's a fantastic document. It has a lot of theory in and a lot of explains everything. But what I found when I used it for the first time is that the examples would just seem to be difficult to get off the ground, and I think in the end all I had to do is I had to go away, find a really easy example, get that working, and then sort of come back to the CRM SDK and sort of use the examples after that. So hopefully this will kind of bridge that gap, but I'll be putting links to this two sort of useful parts of the CRM 2013 SDK that will give you more detail. So from the last tutorial, or the one about setting up the CRM Developer Toolkit, I created my toolkit in I like to go C projects, and I put CRM 2013 and HOSC CRM Dev 2013. This is my solution, Visual Studio solution file, and here you can see it's a sort of package, and you've got 4 other solutions. I've got no Silverlights, but plugins. So you've got a plugin project file in there, a package for the whole thing, and that's got the register. This is where all your, when you create plugins, it creates a line in there with the details. That would usually be sort of it should usually add in the plugin registration tool. And you've got workflow. So I'm just going to open that up, and I noticed I got a kind of funny message when I was loading this up. No organization has been specified. In my previous tutorial I didn't specify an organization, so if you get that, don't panic. Go to Tools, connect to CRM 2013. Now it remembers these details, so this is that's the discovery service for my CRM 2013 online trial. That's my username, that's my password. I'll log in now. What will happen is it will say what organization, because this same connection tool could be connected to an on-premise, and you could have a number of organizations there. It shows you now, if you obviously did my solutions video, you'll all understand all about those. And here I've got some tools installed: Ribbon Workbench, Easy Navigate, but this is the one I created, and this is where, by selecting this, I'm saying that plugins I create here will be put and packaged in this solution. Now this is really only used for kind of exporting the plugins in a solution, because the code will be compiled in there, so it's not really editable. So although it can be used to export it, you know, they'll basically be DLLs, so you can't edit it or change anything there. So just used to move it around, so you'll still need your Visual Studio code. So you do that, and then now my CRM Explorer is connecting to that solution, and it's got all the choices that we want in there, which is good. Before we create a plugin, I just want to talk about what's being set up here. So you've got the package. This is where you can have your web resources, JavaScript. This file is very important. This is when you create new plugins. It creates a kind of line like this. It'll add in extra lines for the actual new plugins you create. Here, this plugin, so this is a plugin project, not project, plugin solution. Okay, I put my teeth back in. This is a plugin project. So if you want to add another one, you could sort of do new project, and then it's a plugin library here. And in some, you may have complex projects you're working on where you could have lots of these plugin solutions inside there. But this is in our simple example, we've just have one, and you'll notice that to be able to create plugins, and what will happen when you'll create a plugin from the CRM Explorer, and it will put it inside this project, and this is all ready to go and create the plugins, and you've got the two important DLLs that you need for CRM. These other ones are used, but this is basically the core CRM SDK. This is all the functionality to be able that Microsoft has written to be able to help you sort of connect to CRM. And then this one also, the proxy. So these two DLLs. So if you were to make a project by yourself without getting the Developer Toolkit to help you, you would have to add these two in to be able to connect to things like the I organization and the other variables like entities used, etc. Also, now it's mentioned in here basically, so you can, when you hover over these, so you can see that it's added our link in here. This plugin is used by this is extended in other plugins, and it just shows you an example that these things, I think this is the context passed in to the plugin. Organization, this is basically the way you connect to CRM, this baby here. So you can see, look, it's Microsoft XRM SDK. This does all the CRUD, the create, the read, the update, the delete, and you see this kind of default class they create. It basically gets all the variables and instantiates them for you, ready to use, and you then just extend this, I think. And importantly, it extends the iPlugin interface. This is what all plugins need if they're going to be called for CRM. And basically the one thing it needs is the execute method. That's what it expects to run. So when it's called, it looks for this, it passes in the service provider. In that service provider, it has all the variables that you need inside there to be able to kind of connect to CRM and update it and do all the things you need to. So that's quite interesting. Now, I'm not going to talk too much today about this. I do want to give you some theory, but little bits at a time really. Otherwise, I'll just spend hours talking and then not so much actually doing. So, like I said, I want to create a plugin on the account. So you go over to your thing. I hide mine over here. I go to my CRM Explorer, go to Entities, go to Account, and then I choose Create Plugin. This pops up the choices that we have when creating a plugin. Now these are the kind of values you set when creating a plugin, and I'll describe some of them. I'll go into more details in later videos, but we'll just go through a brief description of these things now. Now, plugin project, now it's defaulted to plugins because that's the only plugin project inside there, so it's the only choice you've got. If you had a bunch of them, that would be enabled and you could choose them. Now, because I chose account, it's basically selected that for me. The message, now this is what happens to sort of trigger the plugin. So, you know, if you had it assigned, then when an account was assigned to someone else, that would then trigger this plugin to run. The popular ones are create. You know, if an account's created, then you trigger this plugin, and then the code in here is run or delete. And there are hundreds of these for each entity. There are loads of them. There is a list of them in the CRM SDK. It's in an Excel spreadsheet. Here you go, I've got and found it. So here's my in projects from 2013 SDK. This is the SDK, and you'll see in the root basically you've got message entity for support, and in here you've got the message and the entity that it can run on, and whether it's available server or offline, I think maybe. But you've got like create, and you've got, I mean, I'd have done it primary entity that way first. I think I'd prefer them by entity, but I guess you can order them. But you can see like all the different ones there. So I mean, that's kind of useful, but to be honest, when you are creating it, you can just choose the ones you've got for your account. Anyway, so we want update, and you can see here that the class, it names a class for you, and it's basically made up by the different variables you put in. Calling user, this is if you the user that calls the plugin, so kind of dynamically whatever user is calling the plugin, or sometimes you need to upgrade the kind of status, whereas you can hard code a user. So if there's a CRM admin, I haven't got many users in my 2013 trial, but if there's a CRM admin, you can sort of hard code certain plugins to run if they need to do things with privileges most users might not have. You can sort of impersonate inside a plugin, and then you've got these options. So update have pre-validation, pre-operation, and post-operation. I will talk about pipeline stage at some point, but not today. We're trying to keep it basic. So basically, the pipeline stage pre-validation is before it's saved. I'm not sure before the I mean, this pipeline stage usually refers to kind of the database transaction. Pre-validation is before the database transaction started. Pre-operation, so that's like a validating before anything's really done. Pre-operation is before the transaction again, and post-operation is after an update has happened to the CRM database values. We're going to go for, which one do we want today? We'll probably go for pre-operation today. With pre-validation I rarely use, I can't quite remember why, so I will look this up and explain it in more detail. Post-operation is if you want to kind of react to values that have changed and then set other values. That's you put it after it's been done. Pre-operation, you could capture things before they've saved, alter them, change them, and then save them. So we're just doing a simple one today, so pre-operation will be fine. Unsecure and secure configuration, basically these are variables that can be passed into the plugin constructor. That I've used these before to put in kind of details in there to take through to different systems in a kind of XML format. Actually, you can. I might look for more interesting uses of that. Execution order. This is kind of known as rank. Basically, you can rank the plugins and what order they run in in an account. So if you had 5 or 6 or 7 plugins here, you could say which order they all ran in, and this is the what this order will basically control which ones are triggered when. So that could be very important if you had plugins that kind of have a prerequisite of another plugin before it to set up the data in a certain way. Deployment, they can be server only. You can have plugins that run an Outlook client only, or they can be both. We're just going to go server because I haven't got any Outlooks running. Actually here, out attributes. So this one is quite important. If you are only concerned about particular values changing, in this one I'm not actually worried about what values I'm changing, but I'm just going to leave them all in. But best practice would say you only put in the ones that you're interested in. Otherwise, you're passing in needless extra data that's just not needed. I'm not sure, we may use some more later, but if you were only validating an account number, then don't pass in all these other fields needlessly. Just select that particular one and deselect them all, and then only select account number. What else have we got here? Primary entities account, second entity, I don't think I've ever seen that one filled in. Not entirely sure what that one does. Parameters, pre-image alias. This is used for basically an image is it shows the values that were it had previously. So it's basically it's a kind of snapshot of the values it had before the change or the operation. In this case, before the update happened, it can tell you. So this is if you wanted to have code which you needed to know the values before to then. So if you had an option set and you need to know which, A, B or C, and you need to know that if it was A before and then now it's gone to C, then I do one thing, or if it's kind of B, then I'll do something else. So if you need to know the values before the save, because when you run the plugin, you'll just get the changes that are coming in, and it won't know any of the previous details, because it only passes in an update plugin. It only passes in the fields that have changed. So it doesn't copy in everything, only the ones that the user's actually changed. And this is a way, the pre-image alias is a way to kind of get the previous values, and so if you need to use those in your sort of calculations. I don't need those today in this one, so I'm just going to press OK now. And because I had the register file open, it says I've changed it. Do you want to reload it? You say yes please. And so here you can see now that I've added in a step. So if you've ever used the plugin registration tool, you see you get a plugin and then you add a step. You add steps into that plugin which run, and these all get rolled up into one DLL called plugins DLL in this case. But so you can see here the values, all those choices I've made, like the account name, the name of it, which it kind of created for me. This is a GUID individual to each plugin, but because I haven't deployed this yet, it's blank. When we do deploy it, it'll get given a GUID number, and then that'll get written here. One problem you may come up against is that if your register file, CRM register, is in source control, it'll be read only, and that will sometimes occur the fact that when you try and when you do a plugin, create a plugin like we've just done, or you deploy a plugin, it will sometimes error, and the reason is it can't write to this file because source control has got it read only and it's unable to edit it. So often before you're deploying things or creating plugins, make sure that you've checked this file out so that Visual Studio and the tool perhaps behind it can update that file. So you can see basically all the choices we've made are here held in this details, and the reason they're here is basically this runs through and uses information to send to the CRM server to deploy our plugin for us. This would all have to be kind of manually done if you hadn't put it in here. So it's also created this file. So this really is the beauty of our code, is that the Developer Toolkit has made this plugin class that we went through earlier, and this class basically does a lot of the bog standard stuff you would do when creating your own plugin. So if you were doing this yourself, if you're creating a plugin from scratch and not using this, you would have to extend the iPlugin class, and you'd have to have these variables and do these lines of code and put them all in your plugin code. But no, these are bog standard stuff that occur in every time, and it catches a few errors. Every time you create a plugin, you have this code in. So what they've done is they've had it as a base class, really, almost like an abstract class. And now we extend plugin, which in itself extends iPlugin, and so we don't have to do all that because it does it for us all. And then all we've basically got to do is put in our code here, which is fantastic. Right, so now we've got our main basic plugin code here, and there's, whenever you write a plugin, basically you will have to add in some of this default data. And so where have I got that? I've got here. I'll paste it in bit by bit and explain what it is. Basically, I need to obtain the execution context from the service provider. So this plugin context, within there you've got the plugin execution, which is this. So that's the context of the plugin. And this service, this is very important. The iOrganization service, basically this is how you connect to CRM. And when you get it here, basically it's been authenticated, it's been connected by the user, whoever the user ran the plugin. It's got their connection details in there, and with their connection details it's passed it on to a CRM service, and this is from the Microsoft XRM SDK, and this basically allows you to update, create, delete and read CRM values. So we definitely need that. Then let's just put all this in. So you get the input parameters. So from our context, plugin context, basically a bunch of variables passed to the plugin. So it comes in to our local plugin context, and it gets them. This is almost what I call old style. They create the iOrganization service here, and so we're basically using that and getting these values from the local plugin context. But a lot of the values, and I'll go into these in a little bit more detail at some other point, but today we're just going to brush over them quickly. Input parameters. When you have a plugin, basically it passes a load of input parameters as a big an array, and one of those is called target. For create and update, the target entity, the target is an entity, which basically is an entity in CRM. So when you go and look at when you're modifying CRM, you create new entities. This is what's passed in. So we're getting it from the input parameters, and we are converting it into a entity object. And from that entity object, we'll be able to get the variables. Now this is like an extra step. Be warned though, when you do certain other things like status updates or sometimes delete, another thing, I think delete, the entity is only a actual entity reference, and for some other variable like sync, status updates, state changes, it's something else. It's not, maybe not always an entity, so you need to find out what they are. But for creates and updates, it is an entity. So and what you can do also is check the entity and check the logical name. So we're wanting to update the account. So to check the entity name, you can go for find name here. So this is what that value will have. The logical name will be account, and in fact we can see that by going into actually it's in the code. I'm sure I saw it in plugin or something. Yeah, here it is. Look, update account. So that's the actual logical name there. But if you're not sure, go into your CRM solution and find the name of the entity that you're after, and then you can here make sure that if that equals account, so we know that this has been triggered on the correct entity, then go into the code and do it. Otherwise, here I've just got it skipping out. You could throw an invalidation error. So we've got our variables here. So what I was planning to do for this very simple plugin that is taking a long time to do, we want to update the details. Now I can't remember what the details field is actually called, and with this one, but I'm just making it very simple. I'm not doing a strong typed, so we don't know. So we go down to the field. This is almost what I call the old-fashioned CRM 4-way. We can see the name of the field is description. So this is the field we want to update. So we're going to take this back here, and so we've created an entity, so an entity object, and that's the name of the variable. Attributes, entities, when you access them this way, they have attributes, and this is basically a sort of an array of all the fields of an entity. And then you can use a thing called contains, and if now we do this and it says take a string, so if it contains an entity called description, see, this shows you why really you want to be doing strong typed, because anything you're typing in here could easily be mistyped. But I will do strong typing in a future one. So as you can see, it doesn't like this, and that's because that entity is an object, and you can't just can't assign an object to a string, so we need to cast it to a string. So So basically here, I don't know why I'm really assigning that, because I'm just overwriting it, but at least I'm showing you how to convert a attribute value. So this attribute here, description, I'm getting a field. So in the entity object, it has a list of attributes, and in those attributes are basically all of the fields in the entity, and in this case all the fields that have been updated and passed into this plugin. Here I just want to, if it's been so I'm going to write this host CRM dev first plugin is run and update the description. I was going to say on account, but it will be on account. And then so that variable there in the attributes in the entity, I'm just assigning back. Now if it doesn't contain the description, we need to add it in. So let's go string. So in fact, let's just do this, shall we? Move this up here. In fact, we'll do this. So we don't need now to assign that. Don't need to do that one or that one. What we need to do is just add it in. So we just need to add, and what do we put in here? So it's a string and an object. So no, thanks for helping me there. Description. So this is the field that we want to add, and then the actual value of the field is our entity entity description, and there. So let's check the code out. So we come in, get the context, we get the iOrganization service. We don't actually need that. So, but this is, we don't need it in this plugin, but you would normally need it because you'd normally use this to retrieve, query, CRM, update, delete any CRUD activities. We check that it's got a target, so that basically we're checking there is that in the input parameters of the plugin context, that it's got a variable called target, and in fact that target is an entity. In this case, we then assign the target value, we cast it to an entity and assign it to this variable called entity that is a type entity. I, as a bit of extra check-in, want to make sure that that entity is the account entity. Now I am updating the correct one. We create a string saying hosts dev CRM are first updated. If our entity, if the attributes it's passed in contains a description, we don't have to create it. So all we have to do is assign the value there. Otherwise, the description field has not been passed in. So what we want to do is we want to add it to the attributes. We want to say this is the field we're passing in and this is the value. Pass it in. Now, because this is an update, a pre-update, we don't have to actually use the CRM the service, organization service, often called the CRM service, because it's going to pass. This plugin is just going to, we're just going to alter the entity data, and that's going to be passed on and changed in the database transaction event, which is one further from this. So hopefully that should do the business. Another important point here is that we have to sign our plugins. So you go into properties of your plugin project, tick sign the assembly, tick new, enter a the value there. Let me type in a password. And then that has created a PFX for you, and that is all you have to do. He says, fingers crossed. Okay, so we've got our plugin. This will be called when the plugin is triggered. So now we go to the package, we build it, it does its magic, we then deploy. And I cross my fingers and hope that I've done everything right. In our code, interestingly enough, if I've done something wrong here, it should throw an error. I must have a public key. Have I actually signed it? Right, I will turn you back on now. I got that error, which was annoying, obviously. Error 36, registering plugins and or workflows, public assembly must have a public key. Now, I believe this was because of the fact that because we are creating plugins need to have a key assigned to them for security purposes, and so people can't get hold of them and do stuff. Not entirely sure why, but we had assigned a key to our plugin, and so that was unusual. And then I found this Rhett Clinton, there we go, CRM MVP. He signed the plugin projects, but he should also signed the workflow solution to avoid this type of error. I thought that's true. So we go back to our so we did have a workflow solution, so I signed that, but then I got a different error. So basically I thought I haven't got any workflows, so I deleted the workflow. I removed the workflow project from my solution here, and I deleted the workflow line because basically I haven't got, it's no point pointing to the DLL because there's no code in there. So if I want to add a workflow project, I will just add one in later. So you may have that same problem. So what I did, I removed the project. So now you can see I've only got plugin project and the CRM package, and I deleted the solution step. So it did have, you can see here that it had a solution assembly step here. So between here it had a solution step, so I got rid of that. Then I deployed it and it worked. So now you can see that I've deployed my plugin, and I've got a lovely GUID. Because this was open, it said, do you want to update it? I said yep. I've got a GUID, it's got an ID, another GUID there, and there's GUIDs all over the shop, which is great because that means that it's been written to the database and that's spat back out a GUID, so we know that we've gone in. Now you may want to check that it's in there. So you go to plugins, and so these are default ones in Microsoft, and then you can see there, look at that, beautiful. There's my HOS CRM So that's the name of your solution. Plugins is the name of your project, and then pre-account update is the name of your class. And so because it's in there, I know that it's in my package. In fact, we should better go into here. Has it updated? There you go. You can see that you've got a plugin is deployed in there. So so let's check now to see if it actually works. Now obviously I've not really tried this out yet, and you can tell from the recording that I'm just doing this from the top. So I'm not actually, there's no save button. I've got it here, you can see actually. So I'm not, I don't know how it works, the fact that it saves all the time. Or do I need to actually publish this, I wonder? Oh, look, I paused it and it's flipping updated. Outrageous. Right, anyway, let's go to another one and celebrate this. We'll go to Adventure Works. See, this is the thing now. The fact I've got some business rules that I've been mucking around with firing. When does this fire? How often does this? Every 30 seconds, I guess. So we just update some stuff, and we should wait. And then at some point our description, there we go, look at that, it's fired. Oh, what a moment. That could have gone so wrong. Although I'm getting better with the pausing, I still haven't really mastered this recording malarkey. So where we go, look, it's come in on an update. So because CRM 2013 is automatically updating every 30 seconds, I believe, what's happened is that it has triggered the update, which that's our message. So this is a pre-update. So just before it updated those values which were saving back those values I changed on the form, it's come into here. We've gone in, got the target entity, checked its account, and then come in here and it's saved that, got our string, and then we've written it back to the description, which is usually blank on most of these account forms, and then that has written it to there. Right, well, I think I better quit while I'm slightly ahead. Well, there you go, it's quite a long one. I didn't think it would be that long, but there we go, we've got our first plugin done. That's good. Now we can start to do some more complex things. You know, okay, before I go, let's just say don't forget to subscribe to Hosk's CRM Dev channel. At the moment we are doing development. Finally, yeah, I've done a plugin. We'll keep doing plugins and other JavaScript. Also, of course, I'm studying for the CRM configuration and customization MB2 703 exam. We've almost just finished solutions, onto security next. So please, you know, get the videos, and also there is the blog, of course, which has got lots of good stuff on. Look, CRM MVP. You have MVP question and answers each Wednesday, and lots of other top articles of the week on Fridays, and then there's lots of other stuff definitely worth tuning in for.